Alright, so we are on our final day for our language for week 5 of second 9 weeks. So looking back at the words that we looked at on Monday, repeat them after me. Missile, mistrust, misshapen, miscalculate, mishear, mission, dismiss, emit. Which of these words would best complete this sentence? Blank fruit may look weird, but it tastes exactly the same as regular fruit. Misshapen. Okay? The next one says, a person who made written, that's my keyword, copies of documents before printing was invented was called a dictator, composer, or scribe. Look at the written. Scribe. Because what does the root word scrib mean? Right. How is the underlined homograph pronounced? For a while, Maniac McGee lives at the zoo or lives at the zoo? Lives rhymes with hives or gives? Alright, so we will circle the second one. What does the adage or proverb mean? Don't count your chickens before they're hatched.
Don't get your hopes up.
Don't get your hopes up. Could also mean don't celebrate too early. Don't celebrate something too early because you just never know. Correct this sentence by adding commas. Kids want Maniac McGee to untangle their shoelaces, yo-yo strings, and toys.
After shoelaces, after yo-yo strings.
What is that rule?
Commas in a series.
Commas in a series. Okay. So it looks like this week we had 3 commas in a series and 1 dependent clause. Reduce the sentence. One thing that happens is Grayson is taught how to read by Maniac. I could take out one thing that happens is Grayson is taught how to read by Maniac.
You could take off by and Maniac so it just says Grayson was taught how to read.
Okay.
No, but I cross out is, but it's telling who he was taught by. Yeah.
Okay, so y'all want to put that back in?
Yes. Is it saying who he was taught? I put scratched out is was as Grayson was taught how to read by.
What about Grayson is taught to read by Maniac? So that's a word we could take out. Grayson is taught to read by Maniac. Alright, now let's look at our last one, which is our skill that we've been working on this week with the correlative conjunctions. Remember, those are conjunctions that work together. Both is always going to work with, is always going to need and. Neither is always going to need nor. Either is always going to need or. Not only is always going to need, but also. So looking at today's sentence, it says blank, you apologize, or you are going to lose a friend. So it gives me or, so I know what goes with that. Either. Okay? And then going to our poem that we looked at this week. We talked, of course, about poems having lines and stanzas. This particular poem, which is Mass by Shel Silverstein, had 8 lines and 2 stanzas. We talked about a poem using symbolism, which is when words stand for something else. And the symbolism used in this poem was mask, which were used to cover up or hide something, and blue, which represents sadness. We talked about our characters and their traits. She is different, sad, self-conscious. He is also different, sad, and self-conscious. In in the beginning, we learned that they are hiding who they are. And in the end, we learned that others were also hiding their true selves. So everybody was hiding who they really were. So our theme that we come up with is show people who you really are. Be honest about who you are. Okay? So, now looking at our question for today. It is a race question, which means we have to restate the question. The first step in doing that typically is cross out your question word. So let's read the sentence or the question. How do the last 4 lines help develop the message of the poem? What are my question words? How do. So I'm going to mark off how do. Okay? So then I'm going to start from there. I'm going to say the last 4 lines help. You don't have to erase your answer if this is not what you got, because it's good to write what I have and keep what you have so you can compare the two. The last 4 lines help develop the message of the poem. Alright, so that is my restate. Now, I have to do what? Answer. Is this answer easily found, or is it something we have to infer? We have to infer. Alright, so the last 4 lines help develop the message of the poem. What is another word for message?
Text.
What is a message? What are we even learning about a message? A message is a theme. Okay? So, how do the last 4 lines help develop the theme of this poem? So we know that the theme is show people who you really are, be honest about who you are. So let's look at the last 4 lines. They searched for blue their whole life through, then passed right by and never knew. Okay, so that tells me that the last 4 lines help develop the message of the poem by telling the reader, that's me, that the characters hid their true selves from others and never knew that the others were like them. Okay? So now that I've restated my question and answered my question, now I have to cite, and I'm going to do something a little different on this cite. I'm going to do a cite and explain together. So it's going to look a little different. I'm going to provide you with 2 pieces of text evidence and then explain both of them. So I'm going to provide cite text evidence, and we know that text evidence comes from where? The text. Okay. So I'm going to flip back over, and it says they searched for blue their whole life through. So when the poem says they searched for blue the answer and evidence. It's almost like on this one, you are making a connection. So how did I get from here to here? So when the poem says they searched for blue, what does that mean? That means that others, or that they, he and she, were looking for others that were like them. Okay? So now, I'm going to go back to my blue color because I'm going to cite again. They passed right by and never knew. Lines 7 and 8 say they passed right through. Right by? Sorry. By and never knew. Now I'm going to switch back to my gray because I am explaining how that connects to my answer. So they passed right by and never knew tells the reader that others must also be hiding who they really are because he and she were unable to tell that they were like the others. Okay? So obviously, if they can't find people that are like them, but those people do exist, because what are those people also doing?
Being sad.
They're hiding who they really are. Okay? So, is it lengthy? Yes. But, how much better does this answer read than your answer?
It's longer.
Longer?
More
More details?
Yeah.
I actually used race,
Organized.
organized, I like that word.
More colors.
Definitely colorful.
Organization.
Huh?
More organization. That's what I said.
More organized, all right. So let me read you my complete answer. The last 4 lines help develop the message of the poem by telling the reader that the characters hid their true selves from others and never knew that the others were like them. When the poem says they searched for blue, that he and she were looking. Well, that's why you go back and reread. We're looking, when the poem says they searched for blue, that should not be there. He and she, were looking for others that were like them. Lines 7 and 8 say, they passed right by and never knew, tells the reader that others must also be hiding who they really are because he and she were unable to tell that they were like the others. Okay? And that finishes our bell work for this week.